Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Justin. I'm so excited to be here today and really, really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, we were chatting before, and I was like, I'm excited to hear your full story in real time. A lot of times, I interview people, I've met them and I've heard their entire story. Like, I know about you, I know your husband, I know about your family, but I don't know the little nooks and crannies and the details of your story. But where I want to start is, who is Jessica today, and then we'll break down how you got there.
Yeah. So today I am the mom of two adult boys and the wife of an amazing husband. And I own a company that it's actually a fashion styling company that helps women that are high performing really step into their power, really own who they authentically are, what their true identity is, and help them to fully step into that. So really with the fashion styling, it's a very different concept than what you would think with
Yeah.
fashion styling. It's really going from the outside in or the inside out, whichever way you want to look at it, and showing women how to utilize clothing and the fit and the fabric of clothing to really be able to see themselves, truly see themselves in a mirror with all of their beauty. Because, most women, and I know you're married, Justin, you know, most women, every woman I've met, uh, they have areas of their body that they have shame around, right? And so, as a high performing woman, when you try to show up as your best, like, because I'm working with women that are leaders. They're women who step on big stages, book writers, they have their own masterminds. But when you have things about how you look that you're shameful of and you don't fully feel beautiful, it's kind of a roadblock for fully being in your power, fully being able to serve in a deep way. And so my superpower is my imagination
Mm.
and my creativity. And so I have a very unique ability to look at a woman um, and see her as the highest version of who God intended her to be. And I see her in all her beauty, um, and I dress her. I really dress her in the way that she looks. I definitely have a framework, of course, but
Yeah.
and so we have a fully curated boutique in my home, which was my dream. I created my dream. I imagined what I wanted. I knew I had something really special to offer women, that a need that was out there that just wasn't happening in the fashion world, or women going into stores and buying just a bunch of stuff and then going in their closet when it's date night with their husband and going, I have nothing to wear. I have a and he's like, what? You have a closet full of clothes. And so now I built a really big business just on my own. I have a team, but my husband works with me. I have two full-time employees, in addition to Ken. And I've had a mastermind right now that's on pause. I have a podcast. And I serve women mostly virtually, and we send style boxes to these women. And I have some software where they can go in and see their virtual lookbook, and it's every day is planned for them to get up and suit up and show up in this highest version of who they are, so they can close the gap between where they currently are and where it is they desire to go.
I
That's
love
kind
it.
of it, high level. That's kind of it.
Yeah. So my first question is what room did you transform into a boutique? Because I've been wondering about this ever since we last spoke. I was like, what room did she take out of the house and make it a boutique?
No, so my vision was, because I want, initially when we built the house, I didn't have as many virtual clients. I had like local, I had tons of clients here in Sarasota, but I wanted them to have a full experience so that when they walked in the door, from the moment they walked in the front door of our home, they felt like they were walking into their own personal boutique. And so it's the front of our house. You have to walk through the boutique to get to the other side of the house. And on the other side of the house is everything boy. And we even have a male dog, like, and it kind of smells a little like boy over there. And so we always have lots of candles going in the boutique. But it's really, you walk in and there's like jewelry on both sides of the walls and a mirror, and then they walk in, and when I have women come and fly here and see me too, and I have everything kind of laid out for them, exactly in their size and what they would need. They don't see the behind the scenes of all the inventory. They just see what's there for them.
That's cool. That's really, really cool. So what's fascinating about what you do is you work with, women who, from a business perspective, mostly have it all figured out. And I think a lot of times from the outside, people see it and they go, "Oh, they have all their shit together. Like they're good to go." But it's interesting to hear about these high performers who are still missing this piece. What do
Yeah.
you think it is about women in general? Because obviously, I've had this conversation about men, and a
Yeah.
lot of times we end up going on a spiritual journey once we figure it all out, and we're like, "Oh, wait, it had nothing to do with the outside, right?"
Yeah.
And so, what do you find in these women that like they can figure it all out in business, but they still don't feel fulfilled?
Well, I'm going to use the word embodiment. They haven't fully embodied who they are. And it's interesting because, and I help people with image and branding and all that good stuff too. It's like, these women that are up to big things, like they have a marketing company, or they want to be visible. They say they want to be fully visible so they can attract their avatar client, right? And it's really interesting because they do want visibility, but at the same time, they're scared to be seen.
Mm,
And it's this really interesting paradox. And um, and so really when you break it down, what it is that they're not fully claiming all parts of themselves. And I even had this realization this week. I was on a coaching call with a client, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, because I know you work with high performers that you're doing helping them kind of elevate their businesses and things. But she did not want to focus at all on the parts of her story that were hard, or when she was like vulnerable.
yeah,
And she thought it wasn't important because she was that person that just wanted to plow through life, like bootstrap it, and all these things. So as women, if we're not claiming all parts of ourselves, or we have shame around certain parts of our lives that we view as weak, we were weak during those times, and we're leaders and we can't be weak. And so I think when you can claim all parts of yourself, that part of your story is what got you to where you are. Like, that's where all of our really great frameworks come from. It's like we were here and we accomplished, we got through it by doing these things, and now we can teach that, right?
yeah,
And so I think it's a matter of women claiming all parts of themselves, and even like on the outside being able to like look in a mirror and fully see themselves, claim all parts of themselves, all of their gifts, all of their story, but also be able to look at themselves and say, I am a beautiful woman. Like, seeing themselves from head to toe, of like the whole person, and being able to like not accept mediocrity when
hmm,
it comes to how she's showing up, because these are women that they're not accepting mediocrity in any other area, but a lot of women accept mediocrity in how they show up because they think there's something maybe wrong with their body, or they're putting clothes on and it's like they can't figure out what the best way is, so they just get up and they just have their rotation and they put it on and they look in the mirror and they say, I look good enough, I can go and show up now, right?
yeah,
And so embodiment is getting up every day, suiting up every day, like putting intention into how you put yourself together, and then fully showing up. And when I say fully showing up, not performing, not feeling like they have to perform, because a lot of these women are in performance mode,
yeah,
right? But being fully present, just showing up with all parts of themselves being revealed. And some people will like that and some people won't. And I think, we all want to be liked, but I'm at a place now where it's like, yeah, I'm still sometimes scared to be seen. I'm not going to lie, but I know I'm going to repel people too, that maybe I tell parts of my story or parts of what it is and they don't like it. And
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah, I have certainly gotten to the point where like if you don't like me, I really don't care. Like, but it takes a long time to get there. Like it's it's a fascinating thing, but I think part of getting there is sharing the mess, right? And it's funny that these women are afraid to share it because of all these things like your mess is your message and all these things, right? When I talk about curating your story or talking about curating your keynote, I always talk about how you draw them in from the messy or the bottom parts of your story and you teach from the top, right? And so it's like a fascinating way to look at it. And so like a lot of people think that, well, if I'm attracting from the bottom, they're not going to trust me at the top. I go, no, this gives you the trust when you share that story. So what made you dive into this work? Because I think it's fascinating, it's unique. There's not many people that do it the way you do it. What made you go, this is what I'm meant to do?
Well, Justin, I've always been someone that's really into self development and growing myself. And so for years, in Sarasota, Florida, I worked at a boutique, a local boutique here, and I started there 2011. And in 2011, Ken and I, my husband and I, lost everything. He lost his job. I had to go back to work, and I hadn't been working since the before the kids. And so, I mean, I had part time here and there, but I was going back into the workforce, and I had a lot. I had a skill set. I was fantastic at sales, and I was in fashion prior to, and I get this job at this boutique, and she only offered me $10 an hour. And once Ken decided, he was going to go back to work, he got 100% commission job, and he had to build that up.
Yeah.
Um, we were paying the babysitter $12 an hour, and I'm going to work and I'm making $10 an hour, and we're on food stamps. And people might
Wow.
ask, why in the world would you go and work? Like, you're basically paying $2 an hour or maybe $3 an hour to the gas to get there, right? To work. And so I remember at that time viewing it as I was going to school every day. I was going to
Mm.
school every day, and I only had to pay $3 or $2 an hour to go to school every day and learn something and serve women and help them to feel beautiful. I felt broken at that time. And so these women are coming into the store and they have money. They have an abundance of money. Like, these are expensive clothes. But they didn't, a lot of them didn't seem happy. And I would notice they go into the fitting room, and they wouldn't want to come out. Even I'd say, oh, come on out, and I'd coax them out, and I watch them look at the areas of their body they didn't love, and I would see that shame on their face. And I thought to myself, I am just going to I'm going to make these women feel good. And so I started to like really help them see themselves. And I would learn, about their lives. They started telling me, like, and there was, maybe problems in their relationships, or, they just weren't feeling fulfilled. And so as I'm dressing them, we're having these cool conversations. And then they start asking me if I would like go to their home and help them pack and
Mm.
help them like, curate their wardrobes in their home, because they wanted to like keep having that feel. I was giving them feel good. And so I go to their homes, and a lot of these women, I got to like see the evolution of, they weren't happy. Maybe their relationship wasn't good. They weren't feeling good about themselves, to then they come back from their trips and they're like, I reconnected with my husband. Like, I feel beautiful again. Or I'm putting myself out there, and I decided I'm going to go do some volunteer work. And so I got to see the power of the work I was doing. And I was driving into work one day, and I was listening to Tony Robbins. He's still I love Tony. And I needed myself some Tony at that time, because I was broken, and I needed to, like, he can really rile you up. And so I'm on my way in. And at this point, I had been working there for like 7 years. built up this woman's business from just under $1 million to it was now producing $3 million.
Wow.
And I was killing myself. I mean, I would work 10, 12 hours a day. Everyone wanted to work with me. I was the sales manager, but they wanted to feel good. And it was
Yeah.
hard to train people how to do that, how to really make
Yes.
people feel good. And so I'm at this stoplight and, Tony's blaring. There's a car beside me. I look over. I mean, the woman's looking at me like, are you crazy? Because she could hear him. Like, she could hear Tony. And he was saying, and you know how sometimes it's like you can hear these things, but then you have a moment where you hear it again and it just like infuses into you. It just lands.
Yeah.
And that was that moment for me. It was like a very spiritual moment. And Tony said, if you have a gift that will change people's lives, like will impact them, and you make a decision out of fear not to fully lean into that and do something with that gift, you're a selfish person. That makes you extremely selfish. And I felt that in my entire body when he said that. And it was a moment, and I knew that I was going to make a big shift. And I knew that what I felt in that moment and what I knew in that moment, I could never unknow it. I walked in the store that morning and I opened the doors, and it was a big store. There was departments, and I know it was a boutique, but it was a big boutique. And everything looked different. Like my lens was different. Everything looked small. It was
Mm.
like tiny. It was like miniature. And I decided, it took me 10 months. And, Ken and I were not in a position where I could just say, oh, I'm not going to work anymore. I'm just going to go do my side hustle full time. I was responsible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I built up my business on the side. And I told Ken, once I double my income for 1 month, I'll give my notice. So December 2018, I doubled my income, almost killed myself. I mean, that was like Christmas time. I had to do everything for the kids and whatever. And so I started. I just started. And it was beautiful and it was hard all at the same time. It was just a beautiful time in my life of I finally surrendered. When I heard Tony say that, I surrendered to controlling outcomes. Like I just got to put in the effort. I just got to do the thing that I am called to do and everything will work out. And that's exactly what happened.
That's amazing. I mean, to hear that story, and I think so many people are they're like, I'm too busy with my work, I'm too busy with my kids in order to build this thing on the side. And in some circumstances, yes, that may be true, depending on the age of the children, et cetera. But that's a testament to like if you just put in the work, you may be exhausted. Like, there's a good chance you're going to be, but how important is it to you, right? Like I say from this
Yeah.
when I speak, I talk about how like at any given time, there's 75,000 people that need to hear your message specifically from you. And then I say, how selfish of you not to share it. Very similar kind of connotation to what Tony Robbins was saying. And I can't tell you how many people have said to me, like, that's the thing I said on the stage that sticks out the most to them, because it is that jarring thing but you need to be in that moment of like you said, surrender, right? Like I have to be willing to hear this and receive this. And I imagine it's like that with your clients too. They have to be in a moment of surrender to actually say to you like, hey, I don't feel fulfilled, or I don't feel like myself. I don't know how to love myself. And you're really in the self-love game, right? And I love that because I talk about how the first 2 years of my podcast, it was me trying to figure out how to love myself. I would ask every single guest, like, how do I find self-love, or how do you define it, or whatever. What would be your tip to somebody who looks from the outside, looks like they have it all, but they don't have the self-love? What's a good first step for them to really begin to love themselves?
Uh, I think so many people at this day and age, I think it's kind of an epidemic. I think it's even, I think it's become a bigger problem than it ever has been before. And especially for people that are out there in business or that are out there and, and there's a lot coming at them because I think self-comparison, like comparing yourself, especially when you're like your success, you're driven, you want to be the best, I'm competitive. I compete with myself. Like I kind of have this like game with myself where I compete with myself. But I think oftentimes women are looking outside themselves to, number one, be validated by somebody else. But number two, they're comparing themselves to somebody else and looking outside themselves for like, what should I be doing? Like, comparing their way they do business with the way somebody else does business, especially with, the women that I'm working with. Most of them are in the world of keynote speaking and book writing and coaching. And there's how many coaches out there? Like,
Yeah.
it's insane, right? And so they want to find the way that somebody's doing it that's better than them and try to duplicate that or be like somebody else, or even physically, what's my style? What should I be wearing? And going on like Pinterest or Instagram or all these places and seeing something that they think they should be like. And so what happens is, and there's so much that goes on behind the scenes with that stuff. I mean, I've been on set for photo shoots with models and all of that. I mean, they finagle all these things, they edit out. I mean, it's not reality,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I truly believe, and this is actually the first pillar of my framework, is that they need to remember. They need to remember who they are. And the first question that I always ask every client when we're not even on our kickoff call, I mean, we've kind of determined this on the discovery call, that what do you really like? What do you really desire? Like, what do you really want? Because I think at some point, many of these women in their lives have abandoned themselves and
Mm-hmm.
they don't really know who they are anymore. And when you don't know who you are, you try to identify with other people to say, well, am I like her or am I like her? And the really cool thing is, Justin, is I truly believe that before our ego came in, like before the age of 6 or 7, she knew who she was. She didn't edit out any parts of herself. She was having fun. Like, what little kid looks at themselves when they don't have any idea what other people think and says, "Oh, I'm ugly."
Yeah.
Like, they don't think like that. I remember that. Like, I remember being in the mirror and thinking, "I'm like the cutest thing ever." You know? I feel really good about myself. Like, I remember I loved myself. And then at some point, we begin to allow other people to define who we are, and we lose ourselves. And so a good part of the women excuse me, that I can't even speak, that are I'm attracting in right now are because the iterations of the type of client that I've served over the years has changed as I've grown in business and personally. But right now, who's coming in is the woman that is in complete disruption. It's like she thinks like she's lived this whole life. She thinks she in the past feels like she knew who she was. She was defined by what she thought was success, maybe in her business or in her life, with her kids do well, that's a reflection on her, or that type of thing, these outside things. And now she's at a point in her life where she's questioning her own beliefs. Like, are these things really true? And who am I now? And what do I really desire? And I don't think I want to live this way anymore. And nothing feels the same. And so I get her to remember what it felt like to know herself. And I have a practice that I use.
I would love to
Do you
hear
want
it.
to know what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. And I heard Mark Levy. Levy, am I saying his last name right?
Levy.
Levy? Levy, sorry. I heard him speak on your podcast about this practice of he didn't say it this way, but I call it stream of consciousness, right? Like, and so I've learned. I actually had a therapist teach me how to do this when I was having a really difficult time in my early 20s. That there's a period of time in between the moment you open your eyes in the morning and the moment that you're like fully awake. in this 20-minute period, you're still kind of like a little bit in dreamland, kind of in your subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And that really is a space that your ego doesn't live, right? And so if you can take the time in that 20 minutes, and it could be like 5 minutes, I mean, it doesn't even have to be 20, and you just get out whatever comes to you first. And I speak into my phone because I don't want to I don't want to like fully wake up and like have to write, because you don't want to censor your thoughts. But it's a practice that I start getting these women to do, and it unlocks the pieces of themselves that they have abandoned. It's a really cool practice.
Yeah, it's fascinating. You know, what's funny? There was a time that like I'd wake up in the middle, you know, you wake up in the middle of the night sometimes and that you all your best ideas come to you and you're like, "Oh my God." And then by
Yes.
the time you actually wake up, you forget what that idea was. So there was a time before I had met my wife and so I lived alone. I'd wake up at like 3 in the morning,
Yeah.
have this idea and I'd record a voice memo and I'd listen to it when I woke up and it was just not like just garbled nonsense because I was literally more than half asleep and like I was like was I drunk? Like I couldn't even understand what I said. But I imagine when you're waking up in the morning, it's a little bit more clear when you do that.
No, I find 2 in the morning is the best time for me. 2 in the morning. So what happens is when you do that in the morning, you start flexing the muscle of your creativity. So like you can catch it when it happens. You know, people talk about downloads. You get those all the time. Once you put that intentionality, your subconscious wants to give you the hit. And so I don't audio do it. I like voice to text on my notes. And that actually was how I came up with my first, all the copy on, I know this is going to sound crazy, all the copy on my first website. Um,
Wow.
some of the, some of the frameworks that I've created. But here's the thing, you can't read it back or listen to it back right away. You have to give it time. So you have to do it. This is my practice. You do it over like a 2 week period, and then you go back and you read it. And it's really fascinating because you see all these different, the through lines, like it starts connecting. Because if you just read that little garbled mess that you got like that one day, it's not going to make sense.
Yeah, that I love that. I love that practice. I think that's absolutely genius, especially now because I'm trying to write this book, and I'm like, you know, sometimes you sit down to write, you know, your book's behind you, you sit down to write, and I'm like, nothing. Just nothing is coming out of my brain. Like it's just mush. I don't know what happened. I had great ideas, you know, 5 hours ago, and now they're all gone. I think that's absolutely a genius practice. But I also want to go back to something you were talking about, how you know, we're in this world of comparison, especially as entrepreneurs. Like we compare ourselves to what we see on social media, and it's more in our face than ever, right? And especially for women and the way the women look and all these other things. I think about often about how like you know this person goes, oh, we made $10 million as a company this year, or I made $10 million this year. What they don't tell you is they spent 9.9 million on ads, right? So that it's not the actual truth to what's happening here. But they go, oh,
Right.
made $10 million, and you know the entrepreneur who's busting their butt and they made their first $100,000 year, they go, oh, I still suck. But they also
Yeah.
try and mimic and match what people are doing, and I see this all the time. And when I was younger in my entrepreneurial phase, I would do this um, with women. It's the hot pink jacket over their body. Like every woman, like I've gone to events where every woman speaker is wearing a hot pink jacket, right? And I think that there's a sense of like you have to find your style, and that's really what you help people do. And it helps them on. And by the way, you all look great in your hot pink jackets. I'm not saying you don't. Like but it's the
I don't
reality.
actually own, I don't
Really?
own one.
That's great. But that's what I mean, you laugh because it's true, right? Like there's the phases of whatever. Now, all the men like to wear just t-shirts because of Gary Vee. That's where it came from. He was the first one to do it. And then everybody else like, I'm going to wear a t-shirt on stage. So it all comes from
Right.
something. So how can somebody say
Yeah.
they can't afford you, but they want to be able to begin to stand out? How can you begin to find the style that works best for you?
I think it's first a matter of, like I said, remembering who you are, because you need to do that in order to put clothes on and like truly see yourself and for you to feel into what your style is. I think one of the worst things that you can do is start with looking on Instagram or looking exterior and like taking, you know, snippets of those pictures and making a mood board. I don't recommend doing that. most stylists would say do that first. But the first step is to really think about who you are, what you desire, what the life is that if you were to take out all the roadblocks that you could possibly have, or think about what other people think or whatever, what do you really desire? Where do you want to be in your life? And imagine what it feels and looks like to be there. And then imagine what you look like as the highest version of you, living the life you completely desire. And then going in your closet and extracting from your closet everything in there that aligns with her, with that version of you, because then you kind of tell your brain, I'm now ready to become her, right?
Mm.
And so extracting those pieces from the wardrobe and spending time giving yourself time to have fun with yourself. Like, put on the clothes. And this is, and I'll tell you a little bit of, I have to tell you a little bit about my childhood, because this is how I came up with this practice. I did this when I was a little kid, but putting those pieces on, that the fit is great, the fabric is great, you love those pieces. Now, mind you, if you don't have any of that stuff in your closet, you're going to need to invest in the right pieces.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a matter of, putting money aside, like save some money, give yourself, a 3-month period of time. Don't go to Starbucks. Maybe eat at home, whatever you need to do. And I used to take cash and put it in a Ziploc bag under the sink and then have that little wad of money, and I could use that. And you can go and purchase the pieces. They don't have to be exciting pieces, but they have to be luxury, because I don't believe that any woman should feel like she has to put cheap clothes on her skin. Like, what are you telling yourself? This goes back to mediocrity. Like, if you desire to be the woman that has it all, that is doing up to big things, that loves herself, right? That woman is not wearing like a crinkly, like polyester shirt that feels like crap.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important to prioritize quality, and then play with the clothes you have, even, and incorporate in some new pieces that you can mix and match and create fun outfits.
Yeah, and it's the same for men too, right? Because I'll tell you this,
Yeah.
I hate wearing suits. The only time you'll ever see me in a suit is at a wedding or a funeral, and that's just the reality. Like, I hate wearing them. I officiated a friend's wedding, and I said to them, I go, I'm not wearing a tie. Uh, and they're like, okay, but the point is, I remember the first time I actually wore like a nice suit that was, tailored to me, and it was nice, and you feel totally different. You show up totally
Yeah.
different. Like, it's just such a different thing, right? And it's so true, and it's worth the investment if you're trying to show up as the best version of yourself. So men and women need to hear this message. Like, it's funny, as you're talking, I know you work with women, but like, I'm thinking about this for myself, for the men that listen to the show. Like, it's for, this message is for everybody, because the one thing is, as you're talking about these things, and like, men struggle with the same thing. Like, they have the same thoughts, like all of the
Yeah.
stuff. Like, I know plenty of people who have built insane businesses and have done insane things. And then you talk to them and I hear their story. I go, you should be sharing that story. You should be on stages. And they're like, oh no, that's not for me. And it's because they don't feel like they're worthy of being
You're
able to do that. And so you're doing such impactful work, because now these women get to share their message and share it with more people and show up in such a better way. I absolutely love it. And so I want to ask you a question I ask every single person on this show. It's a two-part
right.
question.
Can I
Yep.
interrupt you real quick? Because I want to
Hmm.
give your men value here. Because
Yeah.
they're like, okay, what about me? What do I buy? Like, what is the first thing I need to do? I'm going to tell you this because men, I see this all the time. They like maybe invest in, and I see it on stage all the time. And I'm not calling you out. I promise,
I'm
Justin.
waiting.
I
I'm
see you.
waiting for you to
You
call
look
me out.
great. No, I'm not calling you out. No, get yourself a nice belt and a great pair of shoes. And like, make sure your shoes are clean when you get on. Like, so men that are out there, like, even if you are just starting out in whatever business you're in or whatever it is you're doing, invest in a nice leather belt and a great pair of white sneakers that you can wear as like your fashion sneakers, and like a good pair of like loafers or something.
I'm not a
So
loafer
sorry, I
guy.
had to enter.
No, no, you're good. I do own a pair of loafers, but I'm not a loafer guy. Like it just doesn't work for me. But I'm a white sneaker guy, as you know. And
I know.
fun fact about the white sneakers. Like if you see me on a stage, that's the first day I've worn those sneakers. So every time I'm on a stage, I buy a new pair of sneakers, and they're always the same. They're always the same. And by the way, calling out Amazon really quick. The sneakers that I buy, they're old school Reeboks, but they're new, right? And so they're white, and it used to be white Nikes, and then I found these Reeboks. And I'm like, oh, I like these. Plus, they make me a little bit taller because I'm a short guy. Um, I'm like, these are great. And so I used to buy them online at like DSW or something, and they get shipped. And then I found them on Amazon one day for $45. And I was like, sweet, because they're normally $90. And I was like, awesome. And I bought two pair because I was like, cool, they're only $45. And I was like, I should have bought five pair because when I went and had to buy another pair of them, they were $90. Like Amazon, when you buy something on Amazon, the next time you go to buy, it's more expensive. You'll start to notice this now. It's a bunch of BS, right? They hook you in, and then all of a sudden you got to, they keep raising the price.
Yeah.
So I digress. That was a total aside, but you're 100% right. And I remember when I was so my uncle was a very successful financial advisor. He's pretty much retired now. I think he's probably still has clients, but it's very passive. And so I always looked up to him when I was a kid, like to be like, wow, like this house is really nice and he drives nice cars. I remember when I bought my first Audi, I sent him a picture of it, and he replied, oh, cool. I just took delivery of a DB9, which is like a $180,000 car. I'm like, great response to your 20-something-year-old nephew. You know what I mean? It was like awesome. But he said to me when I was a kid, he said this, and it stuck with me. He goes, always shine your shoes. And there was no
Mm-hmm.
context to it. He just said, always shine your shoes. And like that stuck in the back of my head. And what's funny is I was running a retreat, new pair of white sneakers. And a woman said, Justin, she's like, you always uh, have like really clean sneakers on. You must. And that's when it hit me that it was probably that statement when I was probably 12 years old when he said that to me, that I make sure that I always have clean shoes when I'm, on stage in front of people. So that's super fascinating. I don't know why I told you that, but now we're here. But that's great
I'm
advice,
sorry, I
right?
interrupted you. I totally interrupted you.
No, that's good. And then my ADD brain took me into a whole tailspin of why I always have bright
Yeah.
white sneakers on. I love it. I love it. So to get to the question I was going to ask, it's a two-part question. You know it's coming. The first part is, what is your definition of success? The second part is, what are three things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
Mm. Okay, I've been thinking about this a lot over the last couple days because I knew you were going to ask me this question, and I don't usually prepare for podcasts. Um, my definition of success would have been, and I told you this before we hit record, it would have been very different a year ago than it is today. And I kind of got lost in the whole, like, I want to be the best, like I want to succeed and prove to myself, prove to my family that I can build a seven-figure business. And so last year, that really was my definition of success, was building a seven-figure business. And so last year, I literally I hit burnout. I completely burned out, and it and I hit the number. I
Mm,
burnt out and I hit the number, and I wasn't fulfilled, and I didn't feel like I hit success at all.
mm,
I was proud of myself. Like, yeah, I did that. I could do that. But my health suffered. My family suffered. I felt like I wasn't reaping the rewards of all the hard work, and I missed my family. And I remembered that the one thing when the kids were little that we used to have family meetings. We'd be like, okay, we're having a family meeting. And the kids were little, and they'd get really excited about the family meeting, and we'd all get in the living room, and they'd get on the couch, and we'd all like huddle in, and we'd have a talk about something. And because, like, when we were going through hard times with, we were on food stamps and different things, and we couldn't afford certain things, and And I remember there'd be hard things, or one of our kids is going through something, and we'd have like a team meeting. And at the end of our family meeting, Ken would always say, "It's the four. It's the four. Ben, Will, Ken, and Jessica. It's the four." So as long as we all have peace, we all feel gratitude for having each other, and we're doing the next right thing, the best that we can do, and all four of us are okay, we're doing pretty good.
I love it.
And so my health was really bad in December, and I'm like, I remembered the four. And then I remembered four is like a really significant number. My grandmother used to always, like, we'd be walking down the street and she'd bend down and she'd pick up a 4-leaf clover. And so, and then my husband loves Bobby Orr, number 4, but Boston Bruins. And
Hmm.
so our boys throughout the years, their jerseys always had the 4 on it. Like they would fight for the 4 to have that on their jersey. And when grandma passed away, I would like, and I was there when she passed. I was with her, and I whispered in her ear, show me fours. Show me fours, grandma, and then I'll know. And I do now. But it made me remember the 4. And that is my definition of full success. Secondary would be me fully showing up and not feeling like I have to perform. I truly believe, Justin, that it's my responsibility to show up for other women. Like that actually is probably the thing that I'm most terrified of, is like being fully seen. I not that I fully care what everybody thinks, but I must, because I'm still terrified of it. But, I tell myself every day, and this is going to go into my habits of every day, is I've got to get up, I've got to suit up, and I've got to show up every day. And it means I have to, put that intention in every morning when I get up, because there's no other way. I have a responsibility. And so I have to move my body. I get on my exercise bike every morning. I have not missed a day unless I'm traveling. I go on my cold plunge. I and that I need that. It like shocks my body into it. Actually it really calms me down. And put the intention into getting ready every day and washing my hair, and picking out an outfit that is the highest version of how I desire to be, who I want to be, and then showing up for myself and everyone else that needs me. I also make sure that I have 3 things every day that I know I need to accomplish. And I don't know if you've ever read the book Eat That Frog, and I can't remember
Hmm.
who wrote it.
I don't remember I
But
never remember the author of any book, but I've read that book.
So I eat the frog. Like I sit at my desk and I eat the frog. Like I make the call I don't really want to make, or have the difficult conversation that I don't want to do, or, whatever like some kind of like tech computer work, because I don't like doing that. So I get those things off my plate first. And then I focus on 3 things that can move the needle in my business.
Mm.
Um, and those 3 things include relationships. The business that I have and the relationships that I have and the life that I lead, it's all really one and the same, because I'm living my dream life. Like I'm living my purpose and what it is that I'm meant here to do, to serve other people. And so the relationships that I have are like deep relationships that, like, with the women that are in my life, it's like a sisterhood, and I need to pour into those relationships because it's important to me, and I
Right.
get it back tenfold. But also relationships help me get visibility for the purposes of serving other women that can actually find me. And it's also an opportunity to collaborate, to collaborate with other women, and to gain, gain new clients. And so I call it like putting the deposits in, right? Doing the things that it's not about me, like it'll serve the business, yes. it'll fill me up, like fulfill me, but it's really important to do to move the needle.
Yeah.
So I think those are the big things.
I love it. Yeah, relationships are rocket fuel. Like that's the thing people don't realize. Like even if it's a relationship that there's no monetary gain from, like if it's the right
Yeah.
relationship, it's going to help you become the person you need to become in order to reach that next level, in order to kind of unlock that next thing. And I absolutely love that. And that's why one of my non-negotiables is reach out to somebody just to check on them every single day. It was a simple text. Like it literally takes me 5 seconds, right? And so it's one of those things that like it changed the game for me, and people don't realize how important that is. Like there's so many people that, have an opportunity to build a relationship and they just drop the ball. And I'm like, you could have kept that going. You know what I mean? It's just kind of wild to think about. So I want to wrap up with the same question that I always want to wrap up with. But before we get there, how can people find you? How can they, connect with you, work with you? What's all the good stuff?
Uh, the best way to get a hold of me is my website, because we've curated the website so that you can find my Instagram on there.
It's
You
a great
can listen to.
website.
Thank you. Thank you. Uh, there's also on my website my Power Presence Quiz Index, and I highly recommend whoever is listening, whether you're male or female, it's really a way to have mirrored back to you how you see yourself and how you're showing up every day in your life and in your business. Are you creating legacy? Do you have visibility? Are you calling into your life what you really desire? My Instagram is at the Jessica Papineau. But I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube and all that good stuff as well. And I have a podcast, the Jessica Papineau Show.
What's the website?
Sorry,
No, you're good.
CS. Like, yeah, I guess I didn't say that. CSJstyling.com.
I love it. I love it. So I wrap up every single interview with the same question. Since the show is called The Growth Now Movement, that question is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
Oh gosh. I was like, do I talk about a personal or a professional story? I would say it was my husband, our relationship. It was my husband getting sick, because he's my person. And I really had never had I never knew what it felt like to like be loved for who I am, and for someone to truly like see me. And he did, and we had built this beautiful life together. And he he suffered with addiction, and it it broke our family. But then we were able to rebuild again, and it was the biggest growth because it taught me surrender. He had to surrender. Yes, he had to surrender, but I did too. Like I had to surrender the outcome of whether or not we were going to be together, whether or not he was going to live or die, whether or not my kids were going to have their dad. And I'm sharing this, Justin. Like this is the first time I've ever shared this, and I know there's going to be a lot of people that listen to it, but I'm sharing it because I want people to know that you have a choice. Like you can choose to surrender, you can choose yourself, and you can find your way back to yourself. You can find your way back to your relationship, because at the end of the day, that is the most important thing, is your relationship with your family. I said this to Ken this morning. I couldn't be more proud of our family for getting through what we went through. And I really do believe that we were put here to go through what we went through, and it was the biggest growth, the biggest gift. And I want to help other people have that gift, to come back to themselves, to be able to fully see themselves, to see their worth, and to know that it's never too late. that what they desire and how they want their life to be, they just need to make a choice to fully step into it, because no one is going to choose you until you choose yourself.
Mm. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think it is an important message. And, obviously growing up in a household with addiction, that broke the household, um, it's not easy. It's certainly a team effort, but it can be done for sure. And you guys are proof of that. And Ken's an absolute legend. And I love that I'm connected with you guys, and I can't wait to continue to build our friendship. And just thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with my audience. It's life changing for sure. And thank you for doing what you're doing to help women see themselves in the light they should be seen in, because that's super important. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Justin.